been a while, and we thought for the benefit of our creators at home who are toiling away on the latest challenges, that we would check in with you guys and see what the future can bring. All the glamour, of making cartoons.
Look at this glamour. We're living in squalor. Get out now.
So the usual kinds of questions. Maybe we'll start with Andy. Where are you at, man? Where are things at?
Things are frugal right now. No money in development. Just kidding.
Oh shit.
Hey, you wanted it real, right? Uncensored.
Yeah, this is it.
Get used to 99 cents ramen. Just kidding. It's going well. We are kind of, I'm boarding and writing simultaneously.
Okay.
We talked a lot about kind of the board-driven approach that the guys down at Cartoon Network apply, and how that seems to really get some solid results. So we're giving it a shot, especially since I'm a bit more visual-driven.
Yeah.
So for me personally, it works better to kind of write and draw at the same time, rather than I guess the typical Canadian script-driven format where you write it all out and then someone boards it. So it works easier for me, and it's yes, it's a bit of an experiment, but it seems to be going pretty well. Like things are, like I'm again storyboarding and writing right now. The writing part is kind of locked down, because really before you start going anywhere, you really do have to kind of write out like a skeleton at the very least to start drawing the meat on top of, in a way. The weird analogy. but yeah, so the writing part is pretty set foundation, and now all the fun starts when I start drawing all the weird shit that's gonna go into it. And
so let's get a little recap. The goals with your development package. It's that development Bible. 3 scripts, what we're aiming for?
It's the development Bible, and that includes character descriptions, baseball cards, drawings, turnarounds, whatever gets you hard, and then the other stuff is 2 scripts.
Oh, don't even.
One written by myself, and one written by a team of writers who Wildseed put me into contact with. They're a great couple guys, and I really like what they're doing. And then we've got an animatic, which is going to be the pilot, and that's going to be kind of really locked down, really, a dazzling animatic, a testament to my skill and ideas. And I mean, really, that's going to be the big thing that development hinges on, because you can pitch until your face is blue, but until you really show kind of these people in office what they would be investing in, that's really when you can start to see like results, or you can start to get some solid answers from them. At least that's my perspective. Is it's always better to show and tell.
Yeah.
So we got all that. If I have some time, I'd love to do an animation test. We're gonna see how close I cut it though, and how much time we got left. Because I do have plenty of silliness that I've animated over the past few months that I can certainly compile into an example. But something I would love to kind of have something specifically geared towards the final product that we've been building up.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the gist of what we're putting together.
So what have they outlined as far as the goals for getting this package together? What, in terms of dealing with like your deadlines? You're like, what's the? Because I mean, I have to pull these answers out of you, because I mean, I may know the answers to some of them, but it's for the purposes of our creators at home. Coming into this process, like I said, you've worked through the Bible. We've got the characters fleshed out, all that kind of thing. You've got your own script, the script from the writing team, and who are the writers?
They are two guys who write for A Counterfeit Cat.
Okay.
Really, really great stuff.
So they came recommended to you by the Wildseed team, and was that a matter of
Yes,
sort of
they
like...
were specifically recommended to me by Sarah, who
Yeah.
is the showrunner on Counterfeit Cat, and she was very kind enough to put me into contact with them. And yeah, like they've been great to work with, very receptive,
Yeah.
very willing to collaborate, and some really great ideas they bring. They bring some really great ideas to the board.
So did they pitch you story ideas? Like how did that process work?
Basically, I kind of gave them a very crude and rough outline of the show, especially since at the stage that we were put into contact with them, it was almost amorphous and shifting around still. Like it was always the same about Sunny and Bentley, best friends investigating the paranormal,
Yeah.
but kind of framework around it is kind of like shifted gently, and characters exit and enter, and their personalities change, but they got that kind of outline with all of the basic details that you need to kind of get the show across, and they seemed pretty jazzed about it, which was great to hear. And so they came back with a couple of spec premises.
Okay.
And I guess spec premises, for those who don't know, are, I don't even know if that's the right terminology, but it's basically some speculative premises.
Premises?
But yeah, so it was a bunch of kind of log lines and descriptions of episode ideas.
Right. So they pitched you a couple ideas based on what you had done.
Yes, basically, and we go through those and we pick, like, this one feels good, this one doesn't really feel like it works, this one sounds great, this one now, or we start cannibalizing ideas and we say this part from here works good and I think it would work really good with this one from here, and you start combining. And basically, from there we picked about three of their ideas to kind of expand on.
Yeah.
And then they wrote, three separate outlines for each of those ideas, a lot more in depth than the log lines. And from there we start going through, and as a showrunner, well, like I would call this light show running, because you're not necessarily running the entire production yet. You're just kind of running the pre-production, I suppose.
Yeah.
But so as a showrunner, part of your responsibility is going to be filtering everything that comes in and is done for the project with a fine comb, and basically making sure that the ideas that are being brought to the table respect and reflect your original idea and your vision for the show. There's going to be things that are suggested to you, and you're like, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to keep that in mind, or I'm going to change this according to that, and that's okay. I know a lot of people sometimes are reluctant to change anything or take suggestions from people, but I think it's important to keep an open mind. Just because all of these kind of really successful shows that people watch, that are creator driven, and it's certainly all from the creator, but it's not solely them supporting everything. There is help coming in,
Yeah.
and it is a collaborative experience. But what's really important as the showrunner is to make sure that your vision is being respected and is being kind of cooked to order. So you want to make sure that everything is up to your standard, and everything, again, respects and reflects your idea and your vision for what you want the show to be.
And you're feeling like that progress is remaining true? Like you feel like it's...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the other thing, too, is I'm kind of, I kind of go back and forth with ideas, so like I'm constantly changing things and shifting things around, and so like Sunny and Bentley have changed so dramatically since the competition, and it wasn't a case of I was being told not to do it like that. It was a lot of, well, have you ever considered looking at it from this angle or removing this one aspect from it? And then once I sit and think about that for about, a day or two, and then I'm like, oh, okay, and then this can happen, and then this can happen. So it kind of naturally evolves along the way, and I think that's any idea, right, is going to change and evolve as you continue to to hammer away at it.
And the goals right now, as far as getting this package put together, what are your timeline? What are you aiming for?
So there is, oh man, what is it's something going on in France in October. It might be MIPCOM Junior. It might be Kid Screen. I don't know.
So they've
There's
said
something French happening. I'll tell you that much.
So you've got So there's MIP in the fall. There's the Ottawa Festival. There's Kid Screen in January, February. The big one coming up would be MIPCOM in France in the fall. So that's kind of where you guys are aiming for, to have something to take to MIP.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for. And I mean, again, the people over at Wildseed have been fantastic. They've been kind of taking around some concept work for Grim Repo Club, like some character lineups, and just talking to people about it over there. And the response has been great. They were telling me, like when because they are attending conferences and the like out in the UK.
Yeah.
And to hear about the warm reception that my idea is getting from these guys out there is fantastic, and it makes me it fires me up to really push the ideas that much more and polish it that much more and make sure that everything is that much more set in place, so that when it comes to MIPCOM or whatever we bring it to down the line, it's that much more of, I've heard about this, I've seen stuff for this, this looks fantastic.
Right.
And again, it's that much easier to sell.
So they're doing their preliminary networking with it, with the goal of actually, I'm going to use the terminology, with the goal of bringing it to market this fall.
Yeah, so again, we're trying to get it all set for October, so that so when MIPCOM rolls around, we have the Bible to hand out, we have the animatic to show off, we have all the pitch equipment there and set and ready to kind of take it to market.
Yeah. And you can see this thing coming together. You can see the show. Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's an important part of show running, is that you never lose focus or vision of what the show can be and its potential. And I mean, even during the competition last year, I mean, by like the second challenge, I had already told myself, like, I have to make sure that everything feels like this can be a show. And I think I was successful with that last year, and it really helped me get into the right mindset for actual production.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for the creators in the competition now, is envision your idea as a show, and to a degree present it as a completed show. And I think maybe, even in that first judging video that I saw, some of the judges were kind of, looking for that show potential. I think a few of their comments kind of it gave off the impression that they weren't necessarily sure if this worked as a show.
Yeah.
Maybe it's and I mean, like, that can be for tons of reasons. Like the particular person who had made the challenge didn't necessarily think outside the boundaries of the challenge, or they weren't looking ahead necessarily. And I think that's the big lesson to take home, especially for this top 20 going forward, is to picture your idea as a show and present it that way.
Yeah.
Polish it up, put a title card on it, give it some context of what's happening.
Yeah. There's a few that are doing a little more of that, presenting it like almost like it's episodic and trying to show it like it's a piece of something larger.
Yeah, and I think that's great, because that shows there's that show potential there. And then when, these broadcasting people take a look at it, they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see how we can get, 3 seasons in movie out of this.
Yeah.
Or what have you.
Joel.
Joel.
Let's hear from you, man. Let's get the update. So with Tuff Pom, came at it a little differently in that it wasn't. This is for the purpose of anybody new. That it wasn't one of the ones that made it through to the end, but everyone loved it so much, we figured we had to do something with you on this thing. So it's not quite as robust a development package in terms of what we've got in terms of resources. But what were the goals initially with the project in terms of what were we going to see in terms of development in this one?
Yeah, so basically, Tuff Pom is like Grim Repo light. So all the bells and whistles you might get with the Grim Repo, you just you scale it back a little bit, but we'll stretch the dollar, the Canadian dollar, as far as it'll go. But yeah, a lot of the things that Andy just mentioned, like we kind of had to start, way back when we started development on it, just kind of building up the world. Like I was working with Sarah at Wildseed, and she was like amazing. Like just went through sort of like, I've always been more of like, I am kind of visual first, but I still exist in the word world. So she kind of was really great at, taking these, sort of unpolished ideas and helping me kind of sculpt them into something that you could then show to another human being and feel confident a bit more. But yeah, so we were basically just sort of building a world based on the, the little shorts that were Tuff Pom. At this point, I think, there's still goals to hit that MIP coming up, the France thing, as they've been calling it.
The France
thing. You gotta get in on that France thing. It's looking big. But so the idea there is just kind of getting a bunch of like obviously getting a pitch document together that's, not a Bible, but I would say a couple pages that's enough to give you an idea. Also, the hope is to do an animatic of sorts, but we'll see.
So the challenges are different in that certainly like Andy having worked through the entire competition had a pretty clear idea of what the show, and it was something that distinguished his apart. It was a very clear, at least at the time, a pretty clear idea of what his show could be then. Tuff Pom was, let's just say, a little more stream of consciousness approach to creating something, but at the same time, that's also what people responded to. No one knew quite what it was, but it felt like it felt like it was something that was kind of like had a life of its own and was growing as you went, and we couldn't quite put our finger on it. So in trying to identify what this could be as a show, there's a bit of a different challenge there. Yeah, no, and I think you kind of nailed it. I mean, it was very free and like Andy kind of mentioned before, as a show creator or someone making a show, I always see it as you're just kind of like a strainer, and you just kind of, you take everybody's ideas, and most of the best projects I've worked on, I may have just came up with, the springboard idea, but then it's, it's working with your voice people, it's working with your buddies that watch it, it's all this stuff, and you're just kind of like, yeah, man, that's hilarious. You just have to be like a constant judge of what's funny in your mind, and then try and put it out there. So with Tuff Pom, it's just kind of taking those stream of consciousness things. I bounced the idea off of Sarah to make it kind of in that vein of like old school Rocky and Bullwinkle, where you've got a bunch of these weird segments that are just in there, and you're just like, oh, okay, that's just the way the show works. So, that's fine. Is this gonna work? Let me see. So there's one. Look at that. There's cooking with Pompeii. Can you see that? I can see it. Poms
Dude,
not bombs.
Look at this cutie. Oh my god. Cooking with Pompeii. So that'll just fly in there, with a second, in between a story or something, and away you go. I was prepared. Just
nice. Look at that. We got visual aids.
What a slick.
So you're trying to build a format around something that leaves you room to play.
Yeah. So I think like the idea would be a standard. If it was a standard 11, you'd have a minimum of 2 minutes. That's either like however you want to cut it up, little segments like 2 or 3, just to these weird,
kind of like bumpers between.
Little bumpers, yeah. A little bit more substantial than just like getting you in between commercials.
Yeah.
But just to keep my ADD in check, I need 4 different little stories to. I don't know. Everybody else is ADD too, so it's good.
I mean, I think there's always been room for that kind of show. Like we're talking about 2 different kinds of things. I mean, Sonny and Bentley rolls out as something that has some very strong episodic qualities. And that's, I mean, it's always been built that way. Regardless of how it's shifted, it still feels like it's, comedy, either 11 or 22 minute, whatever you want to do that way, because I think it'll live both ways. Whereas you, man, I mean, it's more the type of creator you are. You want that kind of room to play around and do different things and build out, a format that's going to play to that strength. So both these things, like they are. I mean, we're talking about the the approach to the package, or at least what you're doing development-wise, being Sunny and Bentley Light. But I mean, you're talking about two completely different kinds of creators and two completely different kinds of shows. And I think that's what's nice about being able to bring both these things to market is that you don't have two things that, I mean, I think they would fit really well on the shelf next to each other, but they're complementary. They're not like, I don't think the shows are necessarily competing with each other that way. They're not, versions
You can do
of
a
the same thing.
back-to-back Power Hour.
Right? That's what I was wondering. I want the two-page spread in the commercials. I want the two-page spread in the comic book, like in the old days. And you have the whole Saturday morning lineup right there. And at least
crossover
at least one of them has to feature either a Gilligan's Island, a cartoon version of Gilligan's Island, a cartoon version of Fonzie, or I don't think they ever did one, but I always thought a cartoon version of The Love Boat.
I would never age myself or my show like that, Mike.
Those were the Saturday morning blocks I used to see advertised when I was a kid, and it was like there was that whole round of like there was the Plastic Man, but there was a Happy Days gang, and they were traveling through time. It was a whole glut of those kinds of shows.
Like if we were to do that.
Yeah. So what sitcom would you grab? Like you'd have like
Sweet.
the Big Bang Theory animated, some shitty sitcom that you'd have to turn into a cartoon.
Yeah. Hanna-Barbera used to do these great things for Cartoon Network where it was like a laundromat and all their characters were just kind of doing their laundry. I think there's one with Samurai Jack and Johnny Bravo, and they're both just in their skimpies waiting for their laundry to come out. Nice. And they're just kind of like awkwardly looking at each other and nodding and just kind of making small talk.
There you go. We have that option.
This is where we date ourselves, though, is that you're doing your throwback to your childhood and it's shows I worked on. And I'm doing throwbacks to my childhood, and it's shit you've never heard of. So.
Love Boat? Isn't that a B-52 song?
Well, even your B-52s reference is dating you. B-52s?
Yeah.
B-52s? What's that? Is that a vitamin?
Sounds dangerous.
I used to eat Flintstone vitamins. You guys remember that? The like solid little Flintstones?
Yes.
Yeah, there's strawberry, grape, and orange. I like the orange.
You like the orange? I think I was an orange guy myself. Yeah, I worked on Giant Bravo, man.
No way, that's wicked.
I did storyboards in Johnny Bravo. I got to draw Scooby-Doo in a Christmas episode of Johnny Bravo, and it was in a period in the mid-90s when there was actually no Scooby-Doo being produced, and there hadn't been for a long time. So it was like
that rare breath of fresh air when they're like, let's not cash in on Scooby-Doo.
There was like a 5-year gap where there was no new Scooby-Doo. And I was like, I got to grab this chunk of the board because no one's drawing Scooby-Doo right now in the industry. It's like my only shot to draw Scooby-Doo. And the eyes are really hard.
Kind of like weird doughy egg shapes.
Because, yeah, they don't, like it's getting the eyes right. Like, because you also had to do those super clean storyboards at that point. And, so off model. The eyes were fucked up. It was no good. But I got to draw Scooby-Doo, and I got to draw a lot of Johnny Bravo, so that was all right. I'm not credited on those, but
Jeff Bennett, I think, is the voice actor for him. Total legend.
Yeah. So are you getting towards that part of your routine here? Are you going to start looking at voices?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, as I'm storyboarding it, I'm going to do the first kind of few scratch tracks for them, especially since they're kind of grandfathered in there with me voicing the shorts.
Well, yeah, you're the two main voices. Are you gonna stick to that, or are you gonna cast?
Don't know yet. Sarah had suggested I do Sunny's voice because I don't know.
You got to keep at least one of them.
One of them. I'd love to be involved in some, like, when the show actually gets greenlit, I would love to be involved as a voice actor.
You have to be.
I mean, like, yeah, there's tons of great stuff. So I've been sprucing up the old vocal cords for my grand debut. Yeah, I mean, scratch track right now. I'm doing their voices, so it's gonna be just like this and just like this still. But eventually, yeah, we're gonna start looking into, provided things get done on time, we're gonna look into casting and stuff like that. I've been looking at we've been approaching it from a direction of these characters will sound better if they have genuine voices, like to the point where it's not a big cartoony voice. Like if it's something more like this is how an actual kid talks, like the kid's voice. And I mean, and I think that might be the reason why we're kind of shying away from me voicing Bentley, just because Bentley has that kind of Ray Romano, Kermit the Frog.
Yeah, it's
type.
bigger, right? It's a broader cartoon voice kind of thing.
It's a little silly. Yeah. So, and I mean, like in the span of the scratch track, maybe I'll even shift his voice so it's not quite again Ray Romano meets Kermit the Frog, but
it was probably just like a function of you doing both voices, and you're just like, okay, I need this one to be different than my actual voice, which is
that was the thing is I came up with Sonny's voice first, and I'm like, that's good. That sounds like a kid who's like midway through puberty, and then I was like, okay, how do I get a voice that is the polar opposite of that? And it naturally led to Everybody Loves Raymond and the Muppets.
I'm curious as far as the check-in, like as far as what you thought this was going to be versus what it is. Like where has it landed? Like where has it fulfilled that, and where has it been different? How's this process measured up as far as you're concerned?
It's exactly what I thought it would be. Like it is development. It's just you're working on stuff and hoping, you make a winning lottery ticket. But, most of the time you don't make one show and you're like, this is the one. Like you gotta do it a couple times. So, I've been lucky. I've been able to develop a couple things on my own, and this is, it's been awesome. Actually, yeah, working with Wildseed it wasn't a surprise, but has been really great in terms of feedback, compared to when people just like give you development money and then you're just like off in a dark room, like making stuff, and then they, give you revisions when it's further along, and it's been a good process for me in that sense that you've got someone to bounce ideas off of like throughout, and then hopefully making a better product in the end. But yeah, like I said, it's just put your money in this lottery ticket or this lottery ticket, and one will win and one will lose, and just make another one.
Well, because it's interesting, because both you guys right now, neither of you are working a day job, right? You're both, you're not working on a show somewhere at a studio, either of you.
No.
So, so Joel, you're juggling a couple projects at the moment of your own, with Tuff Pom, with Wildseed. You're developing your Lumberjacked music video.
Oh,
hey, what have we got here?
It's document. Did you ever see those?
And are you developing that with somebody or on your own?
Me and Phil kind of tag teamed it. Phil Adamnusik to he brought some writing brains and I brought some lumberjack brains, and then so we put that together, and now we're actively pitching that one around.
Okay. It's not like you've got a production company that is developing it with you. It's you and Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds about good.
As much as you can say?
Yeah, that sounds good, right?
Sure. I guess the question is, it's not like you've got development money for that?
It's not like I do. No, it's nothing like that.
You don't have development money for that. That's just something you're doing on your own time.
Yeah. So that one just came from the short, and then it's out in the world, kind of deciding where it's gonna live, what it's gonna do in itself.
Sure. Okay. No, but I guess because there's different ways that this stuff happens, and I'm just trying to get a sense of like, okay, you've got you've some money from the Tuff Pom one to develop that. The Lumberjack one is one that's sort of self-generated development process with Phil. And what else have you got going right now? You've got the Teletoon thing, but you're doing a pilot.
So that's what I'm kind of day jobbing right now for the most part, is just kind of designing that and directing it and kind of just sort of seeing that one through. But that one's super fun. It's just like all the back and forth with Teletoon has been super positive. They're really liking the scripts, the designs. Can you that one's kind of like, it's easy to continue to put your best into something when the person you're giving it to is receptive and is liking it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do get these notes and they need to be noted, but it can break you. You can just I can't draw him like that, and then you kind of just sign out sometimes. But Yeah, and in this one, it's been very positive thus far.
Are you allowed to tell us anything about that project?
The Spaceman and Robotron?
Spaceman and Robotron, yeah. Are you allowed to tell us anything about that?
I'm sure I can. It's basically this spaceman, he's got like this iPad with attitude on his chest, and his suit is like this iPad that is like a little brat kind of guy that wants to do everything. Aside from that's not really, that's just the two characters, I guess, and it's just them trying to get home. Like one's trying to find his creator, and the other guy's trying to get back to Earth, and just all this sort of like weird, I would say like Flash Gordon meets Adventure Time meets like something else. I don't know.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
That one.
I don't know what's selling right now. So
No, I swear I did a better pitch before.
I hope you did, man.
Anyway, we're doing a 20-minute pilot for that, so that's cool.
So how did that come about?
Just the classic way you meet someone at a drinking party, and then you pitch them an idea loosely, and then they're like, all right, send me something tomorrow, and then you send it to them, and then they're like, all right, so that one went through development, where we did kind of like the classic Bible stuff, and I think it was 2 scripts, and then they really liked where it was headed and what it was, and then kind of got it into greenlighting the pilot episode.
Cool. When did
So the whole process has been like, I think this will be around the 2.5-year mark. So it was in development for like a year, maybe even before. Like I remember when I started here in Ottawa, I was just kind of starting that up. So it would have been like, 2.5 and change.
So it survived the chorus cull?
I don't know if it's survived or what the deal is, because it's not like greenlit as a show. Yeah. It's just they have funding for a pilot.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you
just like everybody else, it still has to go through the ropes or the rings or the hoops or whatever you want to say, and decide whether or not it goes further after this. But I mean, up to this point, it's been super fun.
Nice. And Andy, you're just living in sunny and Bentley land.
Yeah, I mean, like the really nice thing is that working in development right now has given me like, it's like when there's blood in the water and there's sharks around, and I'm like, I want more of this kind of thing. Like, I really like the whole development process with writing and world building and character and like all that stuff. I really enjoy all the pre-production work, and so now I'm ravenous for it. I'm like, always on the brink of like emailing Brandon Lane and like, hey, you guys taking pictures right now? Like, what's up, man? How's it going?
Just dropping sups to Brandon.
Sup? What's up, man? Hey,
but
it's
the fact
me,
is,
Andy.
the nice thing is, dude, is that you can now. Like that's the transition in terms of your own place in all this.
I'm not exactly sure what the etiquette is for that.
There is no etiquette.
So it is quite as casual as messaging him on Facebook and being like, I got this great idea. You guys are gonna love it.
Pretty much. If you have that access, you just use that access, and then
I'll tell you it for a small fee. Like
I generally send the pitches through Facebook Messenger. I find that gets the best. You want to,
and then like.
Professional, but also kind of fun.
It's like wearing your tuxedo T-shirt, right? It's like you're formal, but you're here to party. Like,
that's right. He is a shark.
See? He knows what he's doing, this guy.
Freaking Botmaster Shark Water over here.
And you guys remember Botmaster from the 90s? It was like that show about the kid, and he has like 43 robots, and they each do something different.
You mean Startoon 1.0 Botmaster?
Oh God!
Yeah, the process. I think the original question was what I was expecting, and or if there was any surprises.
Yeah.
And, I don't. Again, I'd hesitate to call it a surprise. I would say more like I was surprised. Look. I don't know what like a less intensive version of surprise is. I was going to say alarmed, but that gives off the wrong.
Pleasantly surprised or slightly surprised?
It was pleasantly and slightly surprised. But yeah, like I was relieved to see that. Relieved, that's the word. I was.
Like, can we take it back to first position?
It was good. It was good. So when I went into this and we started talking, I was very glad to hear that these producers and these people who I'd be working with were invested in the idea of the show, and more importantly, they were invested in me guiding the show. Because I mean, you do hear all these horror stories about development where, the creator is kind of, they last for maybe the pitching process, and then, very firmly they're firmly, shoved out the door, and then maybe they can get brought back as a creative consultant or whatever it is. And I mean, I'm sure in some cases that's the creator's decision for themselves to exit the show and continue on with other endeavors. But I was relieved to see that they were firmly set on me kind of piloting this ship. So that was really nice. It was also really good that with these people who would be kind of guiding me forward, they all had kind of the same interests that I did in terms of what shows I found influenced this. So they were all like, they all love Twin Peaks, and they all love Stranger Things and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it's like, this is fantastic, like, this is great. And they are very, adamant on, it's a comedy for 6 to 11, but they like the idea that there's kind of this ongoing story arc in the background that is peppered into each episode, and that the intention of the show is to tell a bigger story across many episodes, but you still have those kind of character-driven stories each episode that kind of push who the characters are, because again, the characters are what's going to sell the series.
Yeah.
And having that really interesting and intricate story in the background, and which will eventually come to the foreground, is like icing on the cake, and it's real good icing. But they were really on board with that, and that was great for me to hear, because rather than kind of backtracking and making it more kind of monster of the week, kind of your usual 6 to 11 sitcom coming out nowadays, they were very much kind of like, let's do it like that. They've seen the result, they've seen it get results in other shows, and they are on board with that. So that was really cool. They also like the horror aspect of it, which I was like super relieved to hear, because they didn't try to push it too much into a comedy and stray away from the scarier parts. They're like, let's make it scary. Let's have these kind of creepy elements and stuff like that. And I was like, this is fantastic. Like, I never thought that there would be an instance of being encouraged to make things scarier kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's funny. We always kind of assume that people aren't going to be on board with stuff that might be a little bit edgy, but it's like, you can't just make vanilla. You got to make stuff.
Yeah, you gotta flavor it a bit. And that was the part that I really liked and have liked about this process, is they haven't just been set on, it's a buddy comedy and wacky things happen, because and I mean, like, realistically, if you're over the age of 25, which most showrunners are, it becomes so mentally taxing to try and figure out, like, well, what are kids 6 to 11 like? There's such a huge disconnect from there, and it feels much better to pull from your own experiences. Like, so what do I think is funny? What what are personal experience I had growing up, kind of thing. What were the kind of shows I liked watching when I was a kid? And so we've been able to kind of bring it into a really great area that is that feels much more in line, again, with stuff that's coming out of, institutions like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or Disney TV, where they are, slightly aged up, not to the point where they're inappropriate, but to the point where they're able to deal with more sophisticated storytelling and themes and mature themes. Because I mean, like, even if mature story. I mean, like, you can have themes in there that are considered more or less to be more grown up, and it can still be, it's not inappropriate to include it, but
yeah,
it makes for a more comprehensive experience for kids, and I think that really resonates with audiences. Like, I think a great example is Gravity Falls. If you look at that, like, that show is super smart. Like, it's like the Breaking Bad of children's TV. and like, and I mean, it's made by Disney, and it's ridiculous. Like, you see all these shows have these like huge turnouts at Comic-Con and stuff like that, and it's the same demo as all these shows out here in Canada, but it reaches so far beyond that demo, and I think that's something really important to keep in mind too when you're developing. Again, depending on the type of show you're developing, because I think there's room for all sorts of different tones and kinds of shows.
Yeah.
Like again, like I don't want it to sound like I'm taking away from kind of, the goofy comedy that's like really gag driven and funny, because I think that needs to be there too. Like, I just think we need to kind of expand beyond just kind of like the buddy comedy.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, it just, there's room. There should be room for all of it. And
exactly, like that's what I was very relieved to hear, that they shared that same sentiment, that there is room for experimenting and slightly edgier tones and more comprehensive storytelling and stuff like that.
And if you don't swing for that now, like, let someone else come on board later who's going to say, okay, but maybe it has to be a little more like this or a little more like this. But like right now is when you get to do all that, and you have to put it all out there.
Yeah,
so that
right now. I mean, right now is the time to be like, I really liked the Goonies growing up. I really liked and I mean, like, the Goonies for me is like, those are like the spitting image of what kids are. There's the spitting image of what the kids are. like that. Like, they're so real in that movie, and I mean, they're rude and they swear and they're dicks to each other, but I mean, like, it's always in good fun, and they're such good friends with one another, and that relationship is it's so real, and again, the Goonies is considered a kids show or a kids movie.
That's it. I think Goonies is a tremendous example in that, like, I can watch that now, and quite frankly, Stranger Things is not that different, except that it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I mean, that's really kind of the secret truth I find in kids TV is you never want it to come across like your idea or your show is kind of talking down to the kids, because this kind of talk is nothing for children's ears. My innocent Johnny can never ride a bicycle with his friends in a woods. I don't like that. Like, I think it's good to really explore these kind of bizarre ideas and different genres, and really just make the show you want to make unfiltered, and really kind of see what sticks and and find someone who is willing to invest in that idea.
I feel like if you don't do it at this stage, and then you do get into development or something, and then you start adding like crazy stuff, people are like, whoa, you sold me this, so now you're trying, like, it's better to just start with exactly what you want, if you know.
Yeah, exactly, because I mean, like, if it's kind of run-of-the-mill buddy comedy for too long, and then you're like, oh, and then there's like this space alien who invades their minds, and then you get a call from HR, and they're like, we're concerned maybe you've been doing narcotics on scene. Like,
you don't want to just introduce biking in the woods halfway through your show.
Like, you gotta put that in like who these characters are and the tone of the show, and then it becomes that much easier, because again, I guess it's unique for us with the Wildseed stuff because we aren't attached to a broadcaster, but when we do eventually take it to market and you have all of this stuff ingrained in there, then it becomes so much easier to get the true vision of what the show is across to these people, and then they buy into the genuine idea of what it is. Because they're like, oh, okay, I'm buying into this kind of 80s Spielberg kid show with monsters. Or, I'm buying into this adventure, this epic space opera kind of with, elephant people. or what have you. Like they know what they're getting when they. Yeah, I don't know about the elephant space.
Joel just wrote an episode.
Space opera, did you say? Or opera? Elephants.
I work for tips. But yeah, like I think it's great. I think I couldn't be happier working with Wildseed. They really are kind of the ideal partner for this particular project. And I mean, I think you had asked earlier kind of what the development process is like for these kind of creators moving forward. And I think it's so dependent on the idea and the creator. Like every development process is going to be so dramatically different from one another, depending on you know how much foresight the creator has into their idea, how set they are, what the tone they've set up, how established their idea is really. And I mean, depending on that, like obviously you're going to like the one thing that will remain constant, especially working with Wildseed, is they're going to respect your idea and they're going to respect you as a creator, and they're going to do what they can to make sure that the idea or the final product that you produce through developing with them is like the purest crystal meth. I'm thinking of Breaking Bad again. The purest vision of your idea kind of thing, and it's like fully realized to the point that they can help you develop it.
Yeah.
They aren't going to do it for you, and certainly, I mean, as a showrunner, no one is going to kind of make the show for you. And if that turns out to be the case, again, I think it almost defeats the purpose of Startoon, really. If you kind of like make the show and then hand it off to someone who's like, okay, thanks, I'll take this fat check to the bank, and then you just kind of leave it there. It's kind of I think that's kind of defeating the purpose of what the initiative for Startoon is.
Like people are getting into Startoon to make money.
For the money.
Yeah, they're in it they're in it for the money.
The fat check.
That fat check for like $1,000.
Wait a minute though, if you got a fat check, how come you're still eating ramen noodles, you said?
Did I get a fat check?
Let's just keep moving forward here.
I was kind of hoping in the finale that they had that big novelty check for like $25,000. Just like, I wouldn't like cash it. I would like frame it and put it in my living room just because like.
You were on Skype and you just hear a knock at your door, and then you turn like, what?
Oh my God! Look who it is!
With the check.
But I mean, what you're saying, like you guys, two very different creators, two very different shows, two very different approaches, and still, you know, like as I said, like when you're being given the room to move through from that place of who you are, as opposed to like here's how it's got to be done, right?
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't believe the development process to be this kind of amorphous and like kind of kind of custom fit for you as an artist. I don't know if that's the kind of the standard approach to development gigs, but certainly with this, I've been afforded the opportunity to really explore my ideas and my vision for the show, and that's
and I mean you're a young guy, you're still figuring out some of this, what your voice is, so to have this have some room to do so.
I have I have my stable things where it's like I want to tell comprehensive stories and I like scary stuff, and that's like that's like all I was that's all I really went into this process with. But I mean, working with these guys, I've been able to learn so much more about not only the development process, but myself as like an artist and a creator. I started to see kind of like approaches to how I'll develop a character, or how I'll start to build a world around that character, and how I'll start to implement storytelling into that and accommodate it so that it's still character driven, but there's still this really interesting story to tell, and neither of them overshadow one another, kind of thing. So I mean, like it's a huge learning process, and yeah.
And now you have a taste for it.
Yeah, I've got an insatiable hunger for it. All I want to do is develop now. I'm just like, you know.
What are you gonna do?
Put me on a hamster wheel and electroshock me, and I'll just start shouting out ideas and like, you know.
Well, Joel just took one, so it's one down. I mean,
That's fine. You're not getting it back.
you're not getting the elephants back.
That's okay. That's fine. I'll give you more. I'll give you one about a hot dog stand in space being besieged by cyber seagulls, and they gotta find a way to get around it. Are you guys looking for writers on this? Like,
There you go, Joel. I think you've just had an application. How so? But is this so? I mean, is this really clear? This process. I mean, Joel, you've been kicking around pitches for a number of years and trying out things smaller, like in the music videos and those kinds of things. Has being engaged in this process this year? I mean, both of you. Like I said, like you're not really working the day job outside of it's like you're not working on someone else's show right now. Has this clarified what you want to be doing? Or is this how has this affected you in terms of your approach to your career?
That's an interesting question because a lot of times you ask yourself, can I just, develop stuff full time? And the answer to that, I think, is no. Because normally something needs to stick, and it's kind of like a studio. Like, they'll be they're doing service work, so they have like money coming in from here, and then it provides them the opportunity to, do some other projects sometimes. And they I don't know what the phrase is, they rob Peter to pay George or whatever.
Paul.
Let's steal from Paul. That guy's a loser. But all that to say, it would be hard just sitting in, like I said, like a room, just trying to get something to stick. But I mean, I think for me anyway, the way it's always worked is there would be gaps in production, and during those gaps, I would just end up, doing the development stuff more so. And I mean, now I'm in a case where one of those things that I developed during, time off now is bearing fruit, so I can afford the opportunity to kind of put your all into something instead of like now I'm past the point where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna chip away at this at night and then hope it turns into something good. It's like, it would be just like the dumbest thing in the world to work super hard on something, and then when you had the opportunity to do it well, to like shit the bed, it's just like, did I say, I mean, poo the bed.
That's vulgar.
The point of doing this stuff is to work on your own thing. So if anybody bites on your idea and they want to pay you to do it, it's like, yes, I will accept money to work on my idea. But all that to say, the development process is a tricky one to nurture, and then pay attention to when you need to.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you guys: have you been? I know Andy's been paying fairly close attention to this year's Startoon. Joel, have you been able to keep up with what's going on and what some of the creators are doing?
Oh yeah. I see most of the stuff. Like whenever I'm working, I have a screen up. Lots of times I'll turn on one of those 4-hour podcasts or whatever it is you guys are doing.
So more about the actual cartoons who are a part of it this year.
Are we turning into one of these?
Yeah.
We're gonna
You're always eating food and drinking alcohol. And
anyway, they're
get
good.
any of that?
I watch them, so I'm not making fun. It's better than music sometimes, hearing people talk.
We can get you guys to Toronto. You're more than welcome to sit down for some pizza and beer anytime. That's how we do it. But no. So for the guys who are involved in it this year, for the creators who are currently taking part in Startoon 2, what are you seeing? Do you have any response? Do you as far as this year's crop? What can we say? Any advice to give to them?
I think they're pretty awesome. They're all like, there's a big batch of good ones at this point. Andy, why don't you say your favorites?
Some of the ones that I really liked Lenore, the scary witch one. I think has a lot of some fun potential there. I like Puppy Night. I think that one's also got a really unique vision for it, kind of that retro video game-esque kind of world. I think is unique and fun. I like Gigi. I was super surprised to see it wasn't in the 10 in the last video. I was kind of like, whoa, what?
The hat?
Yeah, with the magical hats. I think that's fantastic.
That was my top 3 for sure.
Yeah, and I like Harry and Shelley. I mean, I do voice acting for it on the side, so I'm a little biased.
Yeah, that's okay. You're allowed to wear your bias in your sleeve. Just keep it on. It's like one of those things, those disclaimers when a news organization tells who their parent company is because they're reporting on it. Just as long as you're upfront about it,
Yeah, I don't want to be like, I know this guy, he's a great guy, I believe in him. I know the best guys, they have the best ideas. Like it's not a situation like that. I genuinely like these ideas being brought forward. I think Harry and Shelley is great. It feels like one that really wears its hook on its sleeve. In addition to showing off the characters, so I think that's really smart. I like what's it called? Pepper and Monterey, the Ghost and the Black Cat.
Yeah.
And I've got a bit of a soft spot for the paranormal and stuff like that, and it seems like there's a lot of fun buddy dynamic between the two.
I got a soft spot for Ryan McNeil.
Oh, Ryan. I never actually worked under him.
He's from out east. I got a soft spot for the salty.
I worked with him,
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like the Gigi. And I really like the Neville's, the Strangest Neville one.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. Like, I like the art style, and I like the humor.
That's one that this time around, the response was, it looks like a show.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Neville stepped into that place this time around.
It reminds me of, like, something from France or, like, Quebec.
Ooh.
Dare I say it?
I also liked, what's Galactic Space Ninja?
Yeah.
By Giroux. That was, I love that one because it's so bizarre and weird.
I said it in the judging session yesterday. I want to see someone just pay to make a Galactic Space Ninja feature.
I was vaguely following along with the narrative, but it was still so like, oh, what?
Yeah, you got a print, Mike? I just want to, there's so many frames in it that I'm just like, yeah, I'd love that as a print.
There.
Like this,
I got it up there now.
Illustrator. I wouldn't let him hang out with a kid, though, if I had a kid.
No, it's not a kid's show. It's not a kid's show.
And that's what TV is, right? It's like it's letting someone babysit your kid. I wouldn't let that guy babysit my kid, but I would pay him, for prints.
But it is interesting to see kind of like which ones are like. I mean, like I love Gigi, but it's the choices made in the Face Your Fears round. The judges kind of like it was. People found a lot of them went. Yeah, Face Your Fears can lead to going dark, but they all were kind of sad and they all were kind of dark, and the judges were kind of like, there was a sense of some of these things are feeling a little self-indulgent, and maybe they're not turning into shows. They're not being kept with that eye to be a TV show. So it was interesting round this round that way, and I think it's interesting that because we're pushing them all through to the next round. And the next challenge is just a party trick. Like it's basically you got 30 seconds to make us laugh. It's called On the Spot, and it's like your character has to be in a situation whereby they would have to basically do a party trick essentially, like whatever their hidden talent is. So it's more go straight for the laugh this time, and it's only a 30-second one.
With the red cups and just kind of like.
Yeah, so we're gonna see.
You Startoon creators, do it without a fart sound effect, and you will be stronger for it. I challenge you. That is a challenge.
To not do a fart sound?
Yeah.
To get a cheap laugh without a fart. Okay.
If you can pull it off without a fart, slow clap.
Because so I think it's interesting. People are getting another chance here to really focus on what makes it a show. Because I think some of the criticism has been we're not seeing these ones like they don't look. Because even Pepper and Monterey, there's a good dynamic there between those two, and it's a clear favorite of the judges. But they're not seeing what the show could be. They're not seeing because even the offhand thing yesterday was it looks like it would make great shorts.
Yeah, that I think that's a fair criticism. I think a lot of these are really funny, but I think they exist more as bumpers in between kind of thing. So it's kind of like coming up next on Teletoon, or like, but before that, here's a short, and
Yeah, but I think that's partially like you said that they should be thinking of the show, but a lot of the challenges are scripted in such a way that you're not going to get that deep,
Yeah, I would also agree to that. I would advise the creators with this one to really think about establishing context to the challenge.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, it's okay to go over the time limit. I think a lot of people kind of like had these ideas, but then they hit that 1 minute mark and they started kind of like, like, oh, like scared to fall over it. And I mean, like, if you take longer, if it's funny and it services your idea and it gets the hook of that show and the feel of that show across, it's fine to go over it. Just don't do something crazy like 4 minutes or even like 2.5 minutes, I would say, is really pushing it. Like, you can do a whole lot in like 1.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And in most cases, all you need really is that extra 30 seconds to kind of put, put some padding on the tail end or the head end of your challenge to really give it a bit more context.
But it's so risky because we do see so easily people fall into just like throwing more and more and more, and they lose the comedy. Like it's why we're pushing for keep it short, because as a broad rule, it's a better thing to say keep it tight than. Because anybody who really is confident and really good at that stuff will add it in and make more so. But more people need the note of keep it short in order to get to the comedy, I find. Like as a broad rule, it's safer to send the keep it short rule out there into the world, because other people just like, it's like with Matt Haynes last year, right off the bat, the thing just went on and on and on and on and on. And as soon as he got the edit to the direction to edit it down, he made it funny.
His voice.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a double-edged sword, though, because I know what you're saying about the comedy and, like, keep it short and do that, but then you get judges commenting on the polish, and, so you say, if it's an animatic and if it's this and that, but then you get some comments that are like, this, it looks a little rough, and this.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they would say that if it was super funny. Maybe it was, like, I don't know, there's a bunch of factors that kind of go into it, but I feel like it's the individual artist is setting like their own bar, and if what they're putting out there is at a good quality and is funny, then that's all you can do. But there are some people that are gonna pull Matt Haynes's and do like fucking friggin' After Effects, like blurs and crazy stuff, popcorn flying everywhere, like. That one was super polished.
That was bananas, yeah. I'm
a bit of two minds going forward with kind of restrictions at the cost of ideas, I guess. Like because I really do understand putting a time restriction so people don't bite off more than they can chew.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also feel that in the scope of this as a competition, it's really kind of like, the creators really need to, if they want to be a showrunner, don't just tell them you want to be a showrunner, like show them, bring that extra level of polish, bring that extra level of kind of storytelling and show them that this works as a show. Format it like a short, like an episode kind of thing. Basically, like bend the rules to accommodate your idea. And again, like with the time restrictions, if you happen to blow through the time restriction, so be it. Again, just make sure that it's worth doing all that extra work.
Yeah.
And I think really that is very dependent on the artist and the creator, because again, it's like you said, it's a really double-edged sword, because on one hand, you don't want these people overextending themselves if they aren't capable of it, but on the other hand, you don't want the artists who are capable of going that extra bit, stifling their creative flow for the sake of an imposed rule.
Yeah, don't shortchange your creativity.
Like you really do. You want to bring kind of like, this is the spot to bring your A game. Like even if it kind of puts you in a position where it's kind of like, oh, this person's showboating, or this person kind of went above and beyond what we asked them to. Like that's fine. That's the
competition. I don't think anybody ever says that, do they? In competitions, like, oh, I got a load of this guy. Just like, fuck, that guy's good.
Yeah, I mean, if that's it, if you bring it, you bring it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, like I think that's like kind of the slogan going into this one is really bring it. Like show them what you've got. Like it's like that episode of Rick and Morty. Like what is it? The big flying head. Like show them what you got. Like it's important.
Well, I mean, and it is. So like I think we're in a really unique situation right now with this round, and that so many people because we've had this situation and we're pushing them all through. There's a second chance here for some of these creators that they would have been gone right now, and some really talented people as well. So it's kind of like all bets are off at the moment, and it really comes down. I mean, yes, we've got a 30-second challenge coming up, and it is going to really separate, who can really bring the funny in that.
Yeah.
But then also those other things, those other notes, like how do you show us what your show is? How do you do all of that with a very limited and a very comedy-oriented round? Like this round really is about that in a way that the other ones haven't had it as reinforced. Like we're always trying to say make it funny, but this one's a fucking party trick.
I have a question about this challenge. Do you have a Francisco recording for this one?
No.
Okay, I think because I do find that the Francisco recordings before I get I get the point of them, but I think it also tripped up some people who were kind of like, well, how do I insert Francisco into this, or how do I
it does limit your idea in a certain way to be a certain perspective and to be a certain setting for sure.
And
but
so I think
people handled it pretty well. But in terms of like, this is just me, in terms of like a short, like those things definitely break it up. Now this is for Startoon clearly, which is, that is what the competition is.
Yeah.
But in terms of like standalone, like that's what I liked. My whole plan last year was to start the next challenge with like the last clip of my previous one, and then just by the end of it have, I don't know, 2.5 minutes short.
Yeah.
That's just good. But I mean, start putting in, that audio and stuff. You can't do that. But
no, that is, and it's interesting because it's part of our discussion. Is that we opted this year to try to embrace the talent show more, and that's something that like it was a lot of back and forth about that, because I like that we're giving freedom to the creators to have things that just live on their own. At the same time, because I think in the first season we did as well with the talent show and we earned enough trust from the creators that way, we put it out there this year. We're going to do a little more of an ask to make it geared a little more towards Startoon specific content. Now coming up, this one doesn't have this one is a very talent showy kind of challenge, but it doesn't have the baked in audio. The final one will be like a 1-minute film challenge. So that one will be a little more like just something that stands alone, like what you guys were doing last year. But it's a balancing act in terms of trying to give creators that opportunity to make something that is very much just its own thing. But also for Startoon, we kind of need the content to read a little bit as Startoon content. So it's a balancing act, and we're trying to tread that line. And every year, like we're looking at, like we'll see how people respond to it. We'll see how it's gone over, and we'll react accordingly in the future to see what the takeaway is on that, because we want to make sure that you guys are getting something out of this for yourselves. And you guys are examples of that in terms of, okay, yes, your content speaks for itself in and of itself for yourselves. You guys both came through this as winners, so you've got something out of it in that respect. And both of you, I think the other side of it, which sort of the soft gain of Startoon, is that you're both guys that any one of our judges or the broadcast, the point of putting those people in the room for you, I think it's safe to say that paid off very well for both of you. I mean, Joel, you already had some relationships in that area. You already had people that you were pitching to, before that. But both of you are guys at this stage who at least start to, at the very least, reinforced your places as creators and maybe introduced you to some of the judges that you wouldn't have otherwise have met. So there's that other side of it as well. Like it's paying off for you both in that area. I mean, right now, Andy, you're specifically just living in your Startoon pilot, but certainly
now I'm friends with Brandon Lane on
there
Facebook.
You go.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like the whole thing there, like I'm back in Startoon, is just yeah, I found it easier to tell like a weird, quirky story that I wanted to tell in the first season when it was just like, you know, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Basically,
and
yeah, that's
you added some like parameters, but then you know you just have to be creative and make it work.
And we'll see what we do next time. Like it's all based on the feedback of guys like you, and see what people think and what the creators themselves think. Okay, so I don't want this to go on forever. So beyond that, any advice to our guys going forward in this round? I mean, you said like just go for it is basically it. What you're saying, bring it. Any broader advice to these guys who are coming up?
Broader than bring it.
Well, I mean, in terms of maybe not in terms of just Startoon, but
that's
like
pretty much the broadest thing you can say.
But maybe I'm talking about beyond just Star. If these people are all trying this out, and some of them came back this year, repeat competitors. But clearly, these are all people who are kind of inclined towards, that pitching approach to their careers.
I would say don't wait. Like, obviously, do Startoon and get in there, but don't stop when the Startoon season's over. Like, just keep working on your stuff. That doesn't mean give yourself deadlines and do these little competitions and record some guy and all that stuff. But you should, if they like doing it here, then they should just continue with it and keep working on it.
Yeah. Andy?
I would say specifically with this next challenge and just moving forward in Startoon in general with the creators, I would keep in mind the hook of your show. And I would, I would format it in a way that best shows off what the show would be, and to keep the hook in mind. So, maybe incorporate the challenge, like the party trick they do, put them in a situation that is reflective of what the kind of this, like how I don't know how to describe it, like how you would tell a story in that show.
No, but find some
dropped into like minute number 6 or something. They're just in a story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kind of like for Harry and Shelley, because they deliver pizzas. Find a way, or in space, and it's kind of like find a way to show off the tone of your hook by doing this bit.
Find some context within what your show would be, whereby you beat your character with a party trick.
Is the best way to describe it. Is put your challenge in some sort of context. Tell a mini story, like a mini narrative with a beginning, a middle, and end. Because again, I find like some of the challenges maybe suffered because they picked up where characters just kind of like, whoa, what's happening? And like, the judges are like, well, what the hell is happening, kind of thing. Just like freaked out, it's jarring. But yeah,
not the strongest opening line.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Everybody,
I like it though. It does have a certain hook for me.
It's all just Kramer entrances, right?
Yeah. Motion being the theory of Kramer entrances, where you just kind of like, whoa, kind of like instantly in the middle of something. Like, give a little bit of context of a character doing something, a little bit of exposition, and overall, again, like Joel was saying, outside of Startoon, if you want to be a creator, if you want to pitch your own shows, just keep making content and putting it out there. I think that's so important especially for young creators to get into that groove of making content and putting it out there. And again, it doesn't have to be the most incredible polished thing ever. It can be a 10-second film. It can be, a GIF. It can be just something that gets across that you're a person with a vision and an idea. And so that when people, like I've had a gentleman contact me. I don't think I can say where he contacted me from, but he contacted me because he saw like, oh, hey, I've seen your work. I saw the Grim Repo shorts. I think they're great. We're doing this startup thing. Would you be interested in pitching to us, kind of thing? And I told him, I don't know if I can pitch Grim Repo, but I can certainly pitch you guys other ideas. And he said, yeah, that'd be fantastic. And I think that's really like, that it's such an important part to create content and put it out there, especially with Canada being so young in the creator-driven game right now. Like, because they are, I believe, usually used to kind of writers stepping in and taking over the creative process for the most part.
Yeah.
So I've heard. I speak of ignorance. I've seen it. I saw it on a Startoon podcast. But yeah, I find it so important for, especially if we want to see the Canadian industry move in a direction that accommodates creators more and young creators, and if we want it to get to the point where, you know, we're not just doing service work for Disney TV, Nickelodeon, and Cartoon Network, but we are actively competing with them to the point where our shows extend beyond the borders of Canada, you know. And again, I find that's another thing too, is that Canadian shows don't have the same reach as these other shows coming out of Europe and America. And I talked about all of this in my Startoon podcast.
He just plugged himself.
Below.
You just plugged your own podcast. That was amazing.
Like, to encourage these young creators to put their ideas out there and show the industry out here that, you know, we're just as creative as these kids coming out of Cal Arts and SVA and marching off to Cartoon Network and creating their own shows. I acknowledge it's not that easy for people to do that, but certainly from a Canadian perspective, that seems like that's the case, even though it's not really. But to create those same kind of opportunities more out here in Canada, so that, you know, Startoon doesn't become kind of a yearly competition, but rather becomes something that major broadcasting studios out here in Canada apply to their own work, so that you have Chorus taking more creator-driven content. So DHX does more creator-driven content. CBC does more creator-driven content. I don't know any other Canadian broadcasting companies. I think like the lesson to take home for these creators in Startoon is to not stop creating. You know, keep that engine moving, like Joel said, and keep creating content, putting it out there, because you never know who's going to land on it, and you never know where it's going to end up someday. I certainly didn't think, you know, a couple of years after graduating school that I would come back to Sonny and Bentley. I thought that I had kind of like firmly taken that dog out behind the shed, and, you know, like old Yeller. You know, keep all of these lessons in mind, like, you know, stuff that Robert said about scope creep and stuff like that. But at the same time, don't limit yourself. You know, if you can bring it, bring it. And if you can't, don't try to bring it if it's going to, like, hurt the quality of your submission.
Yeah.
If it isn't worth kind of going that extra bit, it's fine if it doesn't. Like, some don't need that. And that's no fault of the creator or anything like that. Like, there shouldn't be any kind of onus on them to kind of go above and beyond. But if going above and beyond fits within the standard of a particular creator, I mean, absolutely go for it. You know, why not? It's a friendly competition, but it is a competition.
And we keep talking about it. I mean, the reason why this whole thing exists is because we're reacting to a climate where no one takes any risks. Well, right now, this is your own thing. Now's the time to take a risk.
Yeah, like, I think again, it's a really great thing, because, you know, I think a lot of people are starting to take notice of, like, oh, wow, like, these are some really great ideas coming out of these young people in Canada who want to, you know, do the same thing that Penn Ward is doing, or, you know, that Darren Nefsey is doing, Rebecca Sugar, or J.G. Quintel.
I feel hopeful. You know, in my travels and my discussions, I feel hopeful.
I do too. I think the winds of change are blowing, or whatever the phrase is. You know, I think that's the great thing about Startoon, is it's stirring up this conversation about, well, why aren't we doing stuff like that? And,
you know, because it still comes down to, like, you know, what's going to happen when the next round of buys happen, and are we still? It's a lot of talk, which is great, but when push comes to shove, are we going to take those gambles, or are we going to play it safe? And I don't believe it till I see it. I remain hopeful, but I don't believe it till I see it. It's great to see stuff like Kyle Marshall's show. That's like right now the stuff's being shared around. That's coming out of 9 Story.
Fantastic,
it looks great. It looks
that
great.
intro is insane. I played it like 70 times. You know.
Yeah, love it. Like, it's
and that's a case like we're talking about, guys. Like, that's like the Three Amigonauts was something that he made years ago. He made it. He just did it. He put it out there. You know, it's the same kind of approach to content. He put it out there. And eventually he had to ask people to take it down, because he was now in a deal with 9 Story, because it was out there and they saw it and they said, this looks like one of those shows. you know. So it's it does happen, and like I said, I'm hopeful. But then you know, some other announcement comes out, and I just sort of get a little knock. So I don't know. It's we'll see, right? We'll see when
like it's so tough to say because these things are so flimsy when they're talked. But like it's great that it's being talked about, but at the same time, like you said, until there's results, it's hard to take any of it super seriously.
Yeah. One example's not enough. You know, these shows have to get shows have to get renewed, and they have.
It's on us, Joel. We gotta, you know, it's up to us to save the industry out here. It's just like
I'm not just say that like that because you know. But yeah, let's just make some good content.
Sure.
I'm just like the grim Batman figure. Like this industry is dying.
I'm like, nah, dude, it's fine. You guys are crazy.
So beyond that, I guess any final words of encouragement to the creators right now?
Keep fit and have fun. This is Joel Mackenzie signing off.
Don't do drugs and stay in school.
Stay in school. Don't do drugs unless you need to. But
whatever gets you through the night.
Joel, you cut out there for a second right after you said, don't do drugs unless you need to, and then it just went black for a few seconds.
No,
hell of a sign off.
Doing drugs.
Yeah, like, I guess parting words of wisdom, again, make your idea, show off your idea, what you want it to be. If you have a true vision for it, like, let that vision soar, you know, give it wings to fly. Really commit to your idea and show it off. Keep in mind the tone of what you want to do. And also keep in mind, does it feel like something you can watch on TV? And beyond that, is this something I would watch on TV? Not me personally, Andy, but you as the creator. Is this something you would watch on TV? Don't necessarily think about, is this appropriate for a 6 to 11-year-old? Like, that's not your job to worry about that. It is in a way, but, like, don't obsess over the idea of, you know, like can I say poop kind of thing? Like, you know, say poop, whatever you want. Maybe don't swear, Joel.
At least in Startoon, don't swear. Yeah, don't even bleep out a swear word.
Don't you even try putting a bleep in there, because otherwise you'll have the whole summer off. You think that was by accident?
In parting words, I'm hearing Andy saying all this very deliberate advice, whereas I'm imagining like that, Joel, you're like the difference in approaches here, where we've got Andy like, you know, keep in mind your show, and whereas Joel, it's sort of like throw all the shit at the wall and see what sticks.
That's basically it. Yeah, it can't be precious. Just
make as much.
That's certainly the way to go about it too. I mean, like, really throwing everything and seeing what sticks is a really great way to see what sticks. Really.
You made the best cherry pie in the world, but guess what? I hate cherry pie. Oh well, lucky for you, I also have apple pie. And like, here you go. And it's like.
Don't be afraid to kind of experiment with your idea, so long as at the end of the day it matches your standards and it's entertaining. Like, have fun. Because really that's the big thing. Like, if you win this thing, showrunning's going to be your life for the duration of your idea. So you might as well, you know, learn to enjoy the process and have a blast doing it. And yeah, just bring it. Really, I mean. I don't know how we should do like a supercut of how many times we say "bring it" in this Skype call. You know, to the tune of like Darude Sandstorm. Like,
if they don't do it, I will do it.
Okay. All right. So wish our guys luck, and we'll check in with you guys later on. Okay.
Yeah. Good luck to the top 20. May the odds be ever in your favor.
Good luck, top 20. You're my top 20.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.